Make a plan. Look at what you're interested in. Get disciplined about something. Allow for the possibility that you have something important to contribute to the world, and that the world would be a lesser place without that contribution. Don't be afraid of taking on responsibility. It's where you find what sustains you in your life. A lot of the things that people regard as traps are actually the means to their life. Often young people are afraid of commitment, for example, in the context of a romantic relationship, and because they feel that that's going to interfere with their pursuit of something more valuable. But that's just not the case. You're not going to find something more valuable in your life than a committed relationship with someone that you love, that sustains itself across time, and that in all likelihood produces children. That's life. So don't be afraid of that, or be afraid of it, but don't let that stop you from pursuing it. Well, Nietzsche observed at one point that most of what people regard as morality is just cowardice. And what he meant by that was that people don't do bad things not because they're good, but because they're afraid to do the bad things. And then when they see people do the bad things, they're actually really deeply attracted by that, because it speaks to part of them that could go beyond the rules. And that's actually a necessary part. It's a really necessary part. Like, you don't make men safe by making them weak. In fact, they're much more dangerous when they're weak, because they'll stab you in the back when they get the chance, or take advantage of you when they get the chance. You make men safe, let's say, by making them strong, and then by making sure that they're disciplined.
There's going to be things in your life that you don't have control over. What you can take ownership, though, is how you respond to that situation. More often than people think, there is something you can do about it. And it is your fault. So if you're working for me and you don't show up on time, or you're not professional when you're conducting your briefs, I need to say something to you. And I need to take ownership of the fact that I haven't made it clear that, hey, you need to show up on time, and hey, you need to be more professional, and hey, you need to wear the right uniform or dress the part. I need to take ownership of that. And maybe if I do, and I talk to you and we discuss why it's important, and you say, oh yeah, I really didn't think about that, and you change your ways and you get on board and you start showing up on time, you start acting more professional, it's great, we solve the problem. There's also a chance that you're late again, or you show up, with booze on your breath or whatever, and we're meeting with a client and I say, hey Chris, you can't do this. Look, I'm serious. You cannot act this way. This reflects bad on all of us. And and I might even say, listen, if you keep this up, you're not even gonna be working here anymore. I'm gonna have to get rid of you. You say, no, I love working with you. It's gonna be great. I won't do it again. And maybe that solves your problem. Or maybe you're late again, or you continue to act unprofessionally, and then I'm gonna get rid of you. I'm gonna say, hey Chris, look, I talked to you. I tried to explain this to you. And at a certain point, this job isn't for you. So that can happen. And I have to take ownership of the fact that you are actually not capable of doing this job that I've asked you. So that's fine. Same thing can happen in a relationship, right? Look, if you're in a relationship with someone and you're bickering about where we're going to go for dinner, or you came home late from work and all you do is, well, I've been working all day. You should respect the fact that I've been working all day. Like that's actually on you. That's actually on you. And you can make adjustments to that. Now, can you get to a point in a relationship where the other person is not a good fit for you? And at some point you say, you know what? I've made these adjustments. I've come home, on time. I've texted you when I was going to be late. And these other things are coming up. And you say, you know what? I don't think this is working. And I don't think this is a good relationship. So at a certain point, you say, okay, I've made the adjustments that I can make, and I have to take ownership of the fact that we're not a good match. So yeah, there's plenty of times where taking ownership means actually solving the problem, not continuing to pour the problem down your neck every night, because that's not very helpful to anybody.
There's basically 3 decisions that I think everybody makes in their life, that whether they're aware of it or not, moment to moment. First, you're gonna decide what to focus on. Every moment of your life, there's something grabbing your focus, and you don't experience life, you experience the part of life you focus on, right? What's wrong is always available, so is what's right, right? And there are different kinds of focus. And then the second decision you make about once you focus on something is, what does it mean? Is this the end or the beginning? If you think it's the end of a relationship, you're gonna behave different than it's the beginning, right? And so then the third decision is, what do I do? Which, whatever meaning you come up with creates the emotions, which affects what you do. Sometimes the suffering experiences of our life, if we don't let them crush us, we let them drive us, they actually become the best day in your life. And taking your worst day and making your best day is a beautiful target for anybody. there's grace in everything. And I always think it's like, it's our job to realize that life's happening for us, not to us, and to find how it's happening for us. That's our job. If we do that, then we have a magical life. If we don't, but if your energy's low and you're exhausted, then you don't find those empowering meanings.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, to me, you can't separate the mind and the body. You got to feed the mind and strengthen the body on a daily basis in some way. And if you do that, life can be pretty miraculous. We're all equal as souls, but we're not equal in the marketplace. I was like, what does that mean? And he said, well, think about it. He goes, you need to become more valuable if you want to have economic freedom. He said, you have to work on yourself more than anything else, and you have to work on it in a way where there's something you can do for others better than anyone else, or at least more, at a better quality. And he gave me an example of like working at McDonald's, and he said, you know, if you work at McDonald's, you know, you make whatever it was in those days, $5 an hour, whatever it was. And he said, you know, I go, yeah, but that seems so unfair. And he goes, yeah, and teachers, I gave the example of teachers, and there's these billionaires, you know, that make $1 billion a year, hedge fund guy, you know. And he said, Tony, the guy you just mentioned, he provided a 40% return last year, and that went to nonprofits and everything else. He said, that means those organizations double their money almost every 2 years. He is adding massive value, hundreds of $1 billion, so they made $1 billion. He goes, this person is doing a job that anyone can learn in 20 minutes or half a day. So it's a beginning job. He said, you got to think of it as one thing. It's all about adding value. How can you do more for others than anybody else in the world? What gives somebody power in any context? It's three things. It's pattern recognition. So if I'm great at running businesses, as I am today, pretty good at it, it's like I recognize there's only so many patterns. I know what to do. I can anticipate and not react. I can grow it. If you're great in, let's say, the stock market, you know to recognize patterns. If you're great with music, you recognize patterns. If you're great spiritually, you recognize patterns. But the second skill is you don't just recognize them, you can use them. And then the third skill is when you recognize and use enough patterns, you start to create them.
You gotta wake up and think about, you know, there's a process to getting better, and that process is never finished. I believe everybody should live their life. So everything that someone says in life, take it with a grain of salt. Take what they give and don't be like, oh, David Goggins said this or whoever said this. No. Do not take what I say and do exactly what I say. So for me, what makes me who I am, because my mission is very different than yours or anybody else's, I have to go into a situation knowing, okay, I'm a guy who wants to make people better. For people to get better, I have to continuously get better myself. For me to do that, I can't just say, oh, I have this resume, the resume is there forever, I'm good. I have to cap my success, because for me to help people out, I can't just say I did it once and I'm good. I have to continue to reinvent the wheel of the mind and figure out more and more ways for you to pull. Because if I have a cookie cutter message, it may hit 5 people out of 25. You just failed. My message needs to be in a way where I can hit all 25 people. It needs to be broad enough to where all 25 people may not like the message, but they're getting something from it. And that is evolution. You must continue to evolve. It's important to stay hungry, but it's important more to stay humble within that hunger. So while you're hungry, a lot of people are hungry, but humility is everything.